Hello and welcome to Doing Life Together, episode 30. It is Sonia Eckel, your host. It's good to see you guys. Happy Wednesday. All right, hopefully I'm live in all the right places. There's some changes coming up on Facebook where there will be some changes on programs we can use. So I'm going to figure that out for this Doing Life Together. All right, so what are we talking about tonight? Well, I've been praying about it and I was like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to speak to tonight? And the word perfection kept coming. Oh, great. Awesome. So we're going to have a perfect time together. But no, we are going to talk about perfectionism specifically. So let me ask you this. Are you somebody who believes you're right pretty much all the time, except for that maybe one time you weren't, but besides that, you're pretty much like, no, actually I'm always right? Are you somebody who believes that being right is so super duper important? Like it's so important to be right? Yeah, good question. Okay. So before we jump in on that, I want to give you a quick update on the past couple of weeks. So let me turn off my pings and dings here. I got this. And there we go. So last week it's this week. Is the beginning of this week. And my word, we rolled out the direct sales success formula. It's a free interview series. If you want to get keep the replays for a year, then there's a VIP, but it is free and they come right to your email when tech is good to us. So anyway, I hope so many of you have been loving it. A huge shout out to all of my speakers in the series, the experts, the leaders, the trainers, the top coaches. Like it really is a power-packed lineup for anyone who's in network marketing or direct sales. So if that's not you, think of a friend. I think it would really bless them to get plugged in. All right. So we're on day 4 tomorrow morning. And we're just getting started. We are just getting started. And already I've been hearing great feedback on the current interviews that have been out. So it's just go to directsaleslive.com. Okay. Second thing, a couple weeks ago, I came on for a short little stint and I shared with you guys that I'm doing this leadership, emotional intelligence type of course. I don't even know what to call it. I just have to say that it's been amazing. And I feel just lighter, just having come through, and I'm not all the way through, it's like a 4-month course, but just coming through what we've done so far, it's been really amazing. So if you're interested, give me a shout. I have a special link as a person in the course that I can share with you. So let me know if that's of interest. But I do think that so much. Oh my goodness, I've learned so much. I've learned it over the course of like 20 years. And this course like brought it together in even a bigger way. But one of the things that is so fascinating is how the things that happen to us as children, very young, like under 6 or 7 years old, how pivotal and how those things today, if we let them, they're still running our life. That little girl or that little boy who experienced that humiliation or trauma or abuse, or it might have just been like, it doesn't have to be something big. All it has to be is that little girl or boy, you or me, they thought it was big back then. And it is incredible to start finding those things and then working through them. So by the way, watch the direct selling formula because the series I was just telling you about, because it's actually for way more than just direct sales, to be honest. There's so much gold in there. Obviously, it is tailored to building a business in direct selling, but we have some speakers that are just speaking to all sorts of levels. It's been awesome. All right. So there's that and there's that. Now let's talk about, how important is it in your life to be right? Like really, like honestly, don't give me the answer you think you're supposed to give me, which we all know the answer is like, oh no, I don't need to be right. But look at the proof in your life. Think about especially close relationships, because usually if we're not super close to someone, we still think we're right. We're just not going to fight for it because it's like, well, I don't see this person. I don't have to. But think about the loved ones in your life. Think about that relationship. Now, if you're like, oh my goodness, it's roses, it's glorious, I'm in the best marriage ever, that's amazing. I love that. And I'm going to guess that you maybe don't have to be right all the time if your marriage is roses and your relationship with your kids is amazing, right? So, would you rather be right or loved? Or would you rather be right or live out love? It's kind of interesting. I don't think I really like thought they were in competition. Of course, well, you want to be right. Of course, you are right because you're brilliant, right? Like we're such smart people. We're always right. I think it's somewhat our human condition, somewhat maybe our upbringing. So as I assess me, I know if I look back on my life, I know I'm an achiever. I didn't mean to be an achiever, but somehow I tend to be an achiever. I don't know. And so, along with achieving, though, definite perfectionism. I had this fear of doing it wrong, this fear of messing up. And, my son wrote a paper a few years back, and he just spoke to something he said in the paper, just spoke to me. And it was like, at the end of my life, do I what did he say? Like at the end of my life, I don't want perfectionism to have held me back from doing things because I was fearful I would fail. And with perfectionism, failure isn't really an option, or at least not a very good one. You just pretty much are like, yeah, if I can't be good at it, if I can't know it's going to go well, then I just might not do it. Or perfectionism, I also think, so I think it can hold us back from taking action for sure, or trying new things for sure, right? I think think about the stress of perfectionism, because we know in our human frame, not one of us are going to be perfect. Christ was perfect alone. That's it. Like, no matter how hard you try, it's just not going to happen. So dropping that idea of perfectionism. And for me, I had to just flip it and think excellence. Like, I don't want to show up shoddy. Like, I don't want to put my name on something that kind of sucks. Like, that's not the goal of dropping perfectionism. But what if I went for excellence, but I gave myself grace, right? So as I've assessed this, I mean, you guys know my story. I was raised in a Christian religion of belief that it was the one right way. Okay, so it was like the perfect way. Now, it's not alone. There's a bunch of Christian branches with that similar thing. I've learned. I didn't know that as a kid, though, right? Like, I actually thought that it was the way. But what happens in something like that, and it formed me, is the need to, if you're going to be part of the perfect way, well, you should try to be perfect. Now, obviously I wasn't, but it was just kind of that concept. And so look back in your life, who told you that you couldn't mess up? Like, if you have perfectionism, some of you don't. Some of you are like, la, 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 I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, that's fine, no problem. But for those of us who do have perfectionism, and we realize that we want to make a difference in the world, we want to show up, we don't want to fear success or failure, we don't want to, all the things, right? So a couple things that I have found have been super helpful to me is it more important for me to be right, or is it more important for me to just love? And the answer is to love. When I leave this world, I really, don't really picture someone at my funeral being like, Sonia was always right. And we just loved that about her so much, right? Like, that is not the legacy I don't think any of us would want to leave for our marriage, our children, our grandchildren, whoever it is. I think that when I leave this earth, I want my legacy to be love. Love. And that's amazing, just to stay in that space. And I think that with that, Judgment also, I think, comes off of perfectionism. I think that there is a judgment component and judgment on ourselves first. Like we judge ourselves critically as perfectionists. And then when we are judgmental toward ourselves, you better believe we're judgmental toward other people. You might not think you are, but when you live in a perfectionistic, someone's got to be right, which means someone's got to be wrong. Someone's got to win, which means someone's got to lose. And when we come from that place, it's hard to not live in judgment, quite frankly, right? So my vision is a life of love and grace, which is what Jesus has given to me. And I would say that when I understood the true Christianity, the gospel message, it absolutely radically changed my entire life. And it freed me to step out of perfectionism, to step out of judgment. Jesus alone, like that's where he just broke the chains. Like I just pictured chains falling the day that I finally received what I just couldn't get my brain around. And then my spirit got, got it. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. Yes. And so Patty, I love that you're chiming in saying life is hard when you expect perfection. Life is hard. Your stress levels, your anxiety levels, your depression. Because, if you're expecting perfection out of your children, out of yourself, out of your spouse, and they don't do it, you're going to feel let down all the time. All the time, you're going to feel like, oh, why does my life suck so bad? Because you have this weird, not even appropriate you and me. That's not a you, that's a we as people get this weird feeling of everything sucks because it's not perfect. What if we lived life looking through the glasses of, oh my goodness, gratitude for everything, even the imperfections, even the sucky parts, the parts that you're like, oh, like what if we could even reframe those parts? The joy, the peace, the freedom, I think is incredible. So I wasn't exactly sure what God wanted me to say about this. I just felt like he wanted me to talk about perfectionism. And goodness knows I'm a recovering perfectionist, okay? So I have to do this to myself all the time. I would put this a sign on your wall if you're recovering or you want to recover from perfectionism. And that is done is better than perfect, or do it messy. Those things that remind you that you can do something imperfectly and it can totally change lives for the better. It can change your world. So I think so many of us have actually worn perfectionism as a badge of honor. I thought it was a really good thing. I think my son wrote, I actually thought it was one of my better traits. I love that. And, some of us, we probably do feel that way. Well, I don't want to lay that down. That's my best gig. So anyway, done is better than perfect. I do have to say that we often find someone who maybe we reflect each other a bit. And so my children, to my 4 boys, I just want to say I love you all, and I'm sorry that 2 perfectionists raised you, but hopefully you guys can all work your way through that. So that's to my 4 amazing boys. No, I love Willie, and so when I was first beginning to start, because I realized in perfectionism I would take no steps. I would never move forward. I wouldn't move because I'm not perfect, right? I'm going to mess up. And so I just remember saying that, and Willie's like, well, because at that point he was working, like he's an engineer on airplane parts. He's like, well, actually, perfection kind of does matter when you're flying a plane. I was like, all right, fair enough. Okay. So if you're a brain surgeon, you just keep the perfectionistic thing going. Because if you're ever working on my brain or someone I love, I'm going to want you to be as perfect as possible. Or if you're building airplane parts that are carrying around thousands and millions of people, yeah, let's keep that. So in full disclosure, done is better than perfect does not apply in all arenas. If you are probably in technology, it doesn't apply, right? But speaking to most of us in most roles in life, ask yourself, is it critical that I'm perfect. I'm an entrepreneur, right? Like I do business, and so that is different. I got Willie's point. He's an electrical engineer, and I'm not, right? So so I don't want to say that you shouldn't test and double test if that's your role is one of those places, right? All right. Thoughts. Tell me, is this resonating with you at all? Do you ever feel like you can't move forward, like you're stuck, you're frozen? And it's largely because you have some sort of fear. I'll tell you one of my big fears. Oh my goodness. Again, I recognize, well, we won't go there. But anyway, one of my fears is looking stupid. I don't like to look stupid. And when I was young, I grew up without a TV. So I was pretty clueless. Like I didn't know the TV shows. I didn't know like a lot about modern music, all the things. Now my mom and dad did like music, so I did know some music because we had a radio. We just didn't have a TV. But you know what happened is I wasn't always able to relate to my peers about the things they were watching on TV. And as a result, if we go back to this concept of something you picked up when you were little, and then you've hauled it along with you for all your life. So one of the things that I realized is in an effort to not look stupid, because I didn't know about all the TV shows, I didn't know about all the latest movies, I didn't know all the stuff. So I spent my life having to pivot, like how do I relate? And I hate looking stupid. And I did then, and I'm working on it. Honestly, I'm kind of like working on, hey, it's okay if I look stupid. Right now, you might be watching me going, who does she think? Like she's talking about perfection, whatever. I don't really care. Like I'm finally dropping what other people think of me because I know there's some people out there who I'm speaking to. And this is for you today. Even if it wasn't for 98% of people watching. And it's okay. I would rather do it scared. I would rather do it messy. And I would rather do it. So come to the end of your life, when God has a calling on your life, you actually did it instead of sitting paralyzed in fear of failure, of looking dumb, of what other people think about you. You did it anyway. And because of that, I feel like when you drop that, and that I think is all wrapped up in some perfectionistic things, when I dropped it, I'll just say me, and I've been working on this. This is like I say I am a recovering perfectionist, kind of like a recovering alcoholic. Because if you let yourself, you can slip right back into that old way of thinking. But the beautiful thing is you get to choose. You get to choose how do you want to show up? Do you want to show up in judgment, or do you want to show up in love? Now, does this mean that you lay down every moral compass and you're just like, hey, it's all good. I'm just love. I'm just love. I personally think there's a component of love that is truth. And so there's that. But here's the thing. Even if you don't agree with someone, you can love someone to their core, and they can love you to your core. Even if you don't see the world the same. That's actually a big piece of how this little podcast here started, is the Lord was just like, well, he was just downloading in my heart that after the quarantine, it was amplified, where there were like two sides of everything. And these two sides were all holed up in their home, and they weren't able to talk and discuss and agree to disagree. Like we're all humans, no two humans. I bet a bunch of you, I might think a lot like me. I guarantee you that we don't think exactly alike, right? And that is part of humans. And so realizing that obviously I don't have to think like somebody to love somebody deeply, right? That's my opinion. So Patty's saying, when you attempt and fail and then ultimately abandon your project, your calling. So I think that there is sort of maybe, I don't know how this is in relation, but commitment. I value commitment pretty high. I don't always walk it out perfectly, but I value it pretty high, okay? Commitment shows up in a lot of ways in our life. And I wish I could say that I've held true to every commitment I've made. I know that's not the case. I know that, and I apologize to everybody who I have committed and not followed through, because that is not my heart intent. But I can tell you that, that's definitely happened. But again, you can be a perfectionist and be like, I can't commit, because what if I commit and then I fail? So now you become a non-committal person. How many of you have in your life a non-committal person? Someone who just won't commit to save their life, to save anything. They're just like, not going to commit. How many of you are the non-committal person? So I'm also, that's another one of mine, right? It goes with perfectionism, because if you commit, there's this fear of, what if I let someone down? What if I fail? What if I don't hold true? I just won't commit. It's safer. What if I fail at this new business? What if people think I'm stupid? What if nobody answers my text? I'll just not do it. That's safer. So here's to joining me in the Recovering Perfectionist Club, if this is you. Here's to, oh, there's my kitty cat. Oh, Baloo. So, total side note, but we adopted 2 feral kitties, and it's what's called the Working Cat Program. And I think that's cute. Well, anyway, Baloo and Mowgli is what they got named. And Mowgli was very, very feral. Like, he didn't really want me to touch him, and he did bite me once. I was like, okay, honey, I get you. And so we just released him not that long ago. And Mowgli, I think, is here because the food is getting eaten, but Baloo is getting so brave, and he just came up to the house. So I'm like, yay, super excited. I love kitty cats. So sorry for that total, I just looked out and I was like, oh, there he is. He's a long-haired tabby. He's really pretty. Okay, so imagine what the have to be right, which is, again, it's just perfectionism. Okay, it's this idea that being right is, and if you married someone who also needs to be right, or your kid also needs to be right, like, how are you going to have the relationship of your dreams if you are so set on being right? So I don't think it means that you have to sacrifice core values and things that are important, but how can you find a way to listen to their side and help them, too? Like, this modeling is huge. So, oh, thanks, Patty. You are sweet. I see that. Okay. And Barb, good to see you. Thanks for your shout out there. All right. Well, join me in just every day you get to make decisions. And every day, once you become conscious of it and you realize, is it that important that I'm right? Am I going to argue for this? Am I going to ruin relationships over this? Or am I going to just love human beings fully, and then we're going to figure it out together? And no, it won't look perfect, but we can do it. And for those of you who are Christians like me, like, that's what Jesus calls us to do. That's it. And it's awesome, because it is the most glorious way that we can live out our life here on planet Earth. All right. We'll see you guys all soon. Thanks for joining me, and have a blessed rest of your week. Oh, and if you're in direct sales or you know someone, get them over to directsaleslive.com. There's tons of interviews still coming. You don't want to miss it. And then if you need the deep dive on emotional unpacking and you want years of therapy crammed into like 5 days, let me know. I can get you that link. It has been game-changing for me. Oh, Patty, I'm so glad it's been helpful. I think that sometimes just talking through stuff can bring it up to our awareness. And once it's in our awareness, we can actually deal with it. So it doesn't have to run our life, right? All right. Thanks, friends. We'll see you soon. And I'm out. We'll see you.